Joining the dots, achieving a successful integrated digital strategy. And when I talk about that, I'm not going to give you tips around what a strategy is, but more about how to get buy-in. And that's because without buy-in, without budget, it doesn't matter how great your strategy is. This is about getting traction so that you can move things forward. So a little bit about me. I've worked in online for 15 years, which makes me a veteran. I'm definitely not old, I'm just a veteran. I've worked client side and I've worked agency side. And more recently founded eMarketing Connected in just this year, which is focused on providing best practice information for people that work in online marketing. So we're going to cover joining the dots, an overview, but looking at strategic planning, getting buy-in, implementing your strategy and measuring the results. There's lots of tips throughout, so if you can't keep up in terms of making notes, that's okay. I'll put the slides up online or just come and see me afterwards and I can send you a copy. So the one thing to bear in mind is delivering a digital strategy is going to be tough no matter what, because depending on the nature of the business you're in, it can be quite complicated, but also the digital channels themselves are complicated. They can be technical as well, so you might need to understand how things work together. And things change really, really quickly. So there's a lot of things to consider. But also bear in mind that whatever you produce, it's not a static thing. It's not strategy that lasts you forever. It's changing all the time, and you might produce a document that you're then going and changing again next week because your requirements are changing or the business is changing around you. So the tips that I'm going to give you are based on the last 15 years of my career. The key thing is aligning your digital strategy with what your business objectives are. So they need to be aligned to make sure that you're getting the support within the business that you need, but also that you're delivering what the business actually has asked you for. And I've put a few examples there, but business objectives tend to be really broad. So the business objective might be reduce costs. Okay, what does that mean for digital? Where can you support that? So that could be increasing customer service online because that's a cheaper channel for your business. And you might measure that through the volume of queries that you resolve online rather than through a call centre. A business objective could be increasing sales online. So look for where online can contribute to the overall profitability or the revenue on a particular product and measure things like the sales volume, the conversions and the average order value. So the tips there are looking for those objectives that match, understanding the link between the two, and just start to think about how are you going to measure, how are you going to know whether this strategy was a success or not. You need to think about strategy holistically rather than looking at your channels as well, because the business goals might be broad, but you need to think about the strengths of the various channels. So without diving into the detail, you need to think, well, what holistically am I trying to achieve, and then what channels can help me with that. Another thing to bear in mind is also who owns what, and is that clear? Social media is a classic example of that. Social media is about brand awareness. It can also be for customer service, it can be for HR. So you might find multiple departments within a company all wanting to say, well, I own social media. It's not a marketing thing, it's corporate comms, for example. So how do you work your way through those challenges? And how can those channels work together? So map your objectives before you look at the channels and think about the strengths of each channel. Get clarity around who owns what. Don't go down the path of producing a strategy if you're not sure of all the elements and who's going to support you in those. And also, again, be clear, how is this going to be a success? How are we going to know whether this strategy delivered or not?